Let's have a lesson and discussion on this work. Follow the lesson for free and just pick up all the tips from the video. But if you're interested, I have a sheet music collection of works around the grade 1 level, and there's a link for that in the description. So this comes from Pratten's Easy and Progressive Pieces. This is number 9. And I included this work because, I mean, it's a nice little work, but it also has these nice melodic changes from second position and then back into first position and second position. So you get a little bit of left-hand work in this area, which is great. Also, the change from like melodic material to arpeggios is a really good practice opportunity. There's even some slurs later on, but only like with one finger group. So nice and manageable, but nevertheless, it has a lot of content in the piece. There's also a little bit of right hand things we can discuss as well. But let's start by talking about just the piece and the conceptualization of the piece. So you can think of the melody in a lot of different ways, but essentially you can think of it as all the notes with stems going up except removing the chords and just playing the top note. Or you could think of it as just this. That's how I kind of think of it. These arpeggios, because of the nature of the arpeggio, I think of it more like that. Nevertheless, it doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that you're practicing that upper melody and making it flow in a nice legato way. And you're phrasing it really beautifully. And then when you add the chords and you add the bass notes in, you retain that musical phrasing and that flowing nature of the piece. So practice that on its own and then add everything else and keep your musicality. In terms of the left hand, we have a lot of changing from second position to first position. So here we have second position with my hand aligned around the second fret, like a 1 finger per fret kind of rule around the second fret. So that's how you want your hand aligned so that when you play, there's no like jumping up with fingers or anything like that. Your fingers are already in place. And then we change to these chords that are some in first position. But here on the open string, we spring into second position and align our hand once more, so it's ready to play that. We don't get caught off guard and then use bad technique and reaching up like that, right? Instead, as soon as we hit this open string, you can see I like springboard off the strings like a trampoline and then align and hover my feet over the next landing, my fingers over the frets. It's more subtle than that. I'm doing a very exact movement for demonstration, but that's more accurate. So just work on those clear position changes throughout the piece. In terms of the right hand, we are mainly using MI alternation on the melodic material. And nice and easy. But we must repeat fingers after the chords because we run out of fingers. So we play the chord, and then we must repeat the I finger. That gives an opportunity for a kind of a stutter in the musical flow. But we want to make sure that it has like that scoop and that natural feel to it. That feels natural and it doesn't feel like, like something that's catching us off guard. So just remember about your musical flow and incorporate the technique into that. Later on in the piece, we have a ascending slur in guitar lingo that's called a hammeron, and it's between the third and fourth fingers. So we play the D sharp, our fingers hovering over, and then it hammers down with a reflexive motion. Make sure your hand is properly aligned. If it's misaligned, it's kind of, it might mess up. Your finger needs to be curved and come straight down into the fret near the fret itself so that you don't buzz and it comes out nice and clearly. So make sure your hand is properly aligned or it might not go well. So this is properly aligned. This would be, catching you off guard and a stretch and you might not make it. It might not sound clear. So swing that knuckle around, have your hand aligned, and right into the string. And when you start practicing this piece, I would just take that and just practice it a lot. You could practice it on different frets. Practice it in every way that you can, but get really comfortable with it. That way, when it does appear in the piece, it'll seem natural and feel comfortable. So just prep the experience beforehand. That way, when you're actually playing the piece, it will be easy for you and you won't get frustrated. So just really set yourself up for success there. Let's just do a quick walkthrough of the piece. I think we've covered everything, but I'll go through it anyway. Relax at the end of that phrase and then start again. Relax. Let me do that section one more time. So every time you play that open string, just shift up, get your hand aligned. On one hand, this piece is quite easy. There's nothing particularly awkward about it, and there's no crazy rhythms or anything like that. But on the other hand, there's quite a bit of back and forth positions in the left hand. And so I would practice it very, very slow. And although you might feel like the piece is easy and that you can play it right off the bat and start picking up the speed, I would actually take some caution and make sure you're doing good position changes in your left hand. And when that slur comes up, that you're really preparing the hand beforehand. And that everything looks really proper in the left hand, because you don't want to practice the piece with bad hand positions, even though you might be able to make it sound pretty good that way. But that doesn't really train you for future experiences, right? You want to build a strong foundation at this grade level. So make sure you take some caution and just set up your hand positions really nicely at slow tempos. Once it's all committed to muscle memory, then you can start picking up the tempo a little bit. So I hope you enjoy that.